people don't know too many words when they break them down into syllable. They don't really understand too many of those small syllables meanings. Most people only know a couple, like one of them is ism, and it's unfortunate because when you're trying to express yourself, sometimes you have to go into portrayal in order to give somebody the feeling of what you mean. So if the only short syllableized word that you understand when breaking down other words is ism, you're more likely to go into portrayal of the fear in order to express what you mean, and people mostly will just accept that you are afraid instead of that you are trying to express what you mean. So what happened is just lazy. That's the cost of being lazy. You don't get a new word just by putting ism on to a word, because you already have words that mean for that. So when somebody say like let's say you say that's not a word. Let's say racism is not a word. Let's say it's not a word. A lot of people are going to say it's not a thing. Some people are going to say it don't exist. Okay, those are lazy. All right, it is not a word. We already know what a bigot. You already know about prejudice. You know the light and the dark aspect of the word prejudice, right? Bigot is just outright, that's a liable, that's like a word that you that's just like an already set word that you can levy. It already has its meaning, but some words are either good or bad. Like making an attempt could be a good thing, or it could be in a crime thing sense, right? Or making an advance, getting an advance, receiving an advance. It could mean a different thing if you're an employee, or if you're like an attractive woman or something like that. Advances is you're not seeking to have all these advances. Like if you go to work, you're like, I would like an advance. It's a good. That's good. So when you go into portrayal, I know what you mean. But if you go into portrayal on a word like ism, then you have to portray fear. And then I could just accept that's you. So don't be lazy. Like, keep working out with lazy terminology that has, a agenda or a dialectic. It's less expressive, it's lazy. You don't know why it's less expressive until you go into portrayal. And with the problem being that most people only understand ism. Then how many other words can you break down? The lexicon and the derivative and the meaning. You have to be able to do most of them. Like you need to look at the variability and some of the shared aspects and some of the not shared aspects of words that might be relation, because some are just better. And then for that instance, when you use a better terminology, you find out how later it was taxing energy. It's not something you can understand. It's not something you're supposed to be or maybe afforded to understand. So if you're more proficient, you get in more trouble when you misuse the words. So like, once you know that there's a variability between utility and assets, then you can't just go back to calling utilities an asset. What are you solving for? Tell me something I already know. You're just trying to lecture. It seems like manipulation. And so like you notice that some of these like federal agencies will like refer to utilities as some of your assets. They could be taxed and sold, but you're using them to go to fucking work. You know what I mean? You hardly even make any wear and tear on the infrastructure, like those big 18 rig wheeler things or anything like that. But you're paying for that too, and your own maintenance, and like sometimes you come out of pocket at work to do shit at work too. But like So they're trying to change in legalese terms. They're trying to refer to things if they want civil asset forfeiture, or if they want to lean on the people more. You know what I mean? They'll start referring to utilities as an asset, but like amongst like just your own people or something like that, you might refer to some of your friends as assets instead of allies, because that puts in their mind, well, shit, you don't value anything concrete because you can just change your alliances. Obviously, you wouldn't have to tell me. So calling me an ally is programming me to be, it's like chattel. It's like you're like playing Shechem. So you're asking you to play Shechem, but that's only if somebody doesn't understand the variability and the meaning of the English language. They didn't tell me to play Shechem. Like, they might understand that as a compliment, right? But one thing is more fixed. There's a light and a dark aspect of ecumenism. One being acculturation, which is friendly, which is to be received as friendly. And then there's assimilation, which is an attack. You could be either required to assimilate, or you can be assimilating on purpose to try to clone an aspect of someone's culture in a way that is destructive, and it's a cloning attack. Either way, it's a cloning attack. Whether you're being asked to clone, or you're requiring to clone, or you're doing it yourself for a reason. Assimilation is the dark aspect of ecumenism. So the light aspect, yeah, acculturation. It just something that happens when you come to a place with the use of terminology. Then you start to communicate and understand in the use of that terminology. So you'll have like Mexicans that say nigga. You have like, even Chinese, and like every race says nigga. That happened sort of ecumenically, but more towards the acculturation, something that happens to them, and then they understand it as a figure of speech. And I missed that before. I didn't know. I mean, I overlooked. Okay, but that's this ecumenism could just sound like a bad word to some people. It could, but it's not all. It's not. It's a two-sided of a coin. Maybe they have something left a bad taste in their mouth. Then, understandably, again. So, I hope that I started this video talking about the same thing that I ended the video talking about. Kind of, and it's like syllables are like miniature words that you can kind of combine and attach and hyphenate and all this kind of stuff.